everybody. Welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show, and thanks for stopping by. We're going to make a marble today with kind of a floral pattern. Done this sort of work many times before, but we'll see what we can do a little different. Got a lot of sunshine beaming in the shop this morning. Whoa. Gotta watch for that glass when it does that. I don't know where that piece went, but it hit me right in the finger and gave me a little burn. Well, that's the way glass goes sometimes. It's a little dicey throwing your glass into the flame. So I'm just starting off with the 19mm clear rod. Clean up this end a little bit. Cut ends are always kind of messy. Well, I don't know if it's flame cut or how it was cut. So I hope everyone's doing well out there. I'm a little bit distracted this week. It's kind of unexpected, but within the realm of it's not a tragedy. So my wife Ray is over with her mom right now, spending some time with family trying to sort things out. So that's kind of where my mind is off again, on again, thinking of my mother-in-law. So there's lots of flowers involved, so I thought I'd make a flower marble today. In my version of this type of compression work, I'm not at all trying to make a particular flower. This is what I refer to more as a starburst. So I need to start out with gather a glass that I'll flatten the end, and then we'll use our favorite tool, the florist frog, to give us an impression, a little pattern of little dimples. Then we go in there and put color glass in all those little spots. But first I need a bit of a blob of glass to start with. So we continue to be, well, it's actually got a bit of an inversion going on locally, but January 2026, this continues to be absolutely bizarrely warm weather, no snow on the ground, no snow in the forecast. It's a little unsettling, frankly, on top of everything else going on. But it's pretty. There is snow up in the hills. Just hope it can stay up there. Alright, this takes a minute. This initial gather tends to kind of set the tone of how large the whole marble is going to get. But when I sit down at the porch and work glass, this is the chill zone. You can contemplate life, you can contemplate things while you're doing glass, but it's kind of a time to be kind of in a zen space of watching the glass, trying to work with it. And pay attention to what the glass is telling you. Okay, after we get a bit of a gather going, we need that to solidify for a moment. So I'm going to heat up just the very end. I'll do this in a few different steps here, trying to press this out to a flat base. Okay, the next step is to give an impression on the florist frog. I'm trying to do this here. I need to be able to look straight down onto it. See if we can kind of capture this. So you want to get the face good and hot. Try and kind of center this. And give it a squish. Come off there, Monk. Okay. Now we've got a whole pattern of little dimples. Actually, kind of pressed in there a little ways. And get situated with the flame and with the magnifying visor. Okay, we're going to start off with some orange. And sometimes when I start with these colors, especially the cadmium sort of colors, I want to do this pretty gentle. So we kind of try and brace against things, try and hold it steady, and get some magnification to a level that you can see what's going on. Oops. Just dropped a little spot off where it shouldn't be. Okay, so some random pieces like that stick down where you don't want it, you should be able to kind of flick that off there when it's cold. Let's see. So the next layer, I'm going to do purple. This is one of those sintered colors from out of India. Not really sure the origins of this glass. So I'm trying to kind of find the sweet spot where the flame is right there. You have a little flame like this, it kind of disappears. Okay, a row of purple. Now this one I'm going to try this purple lilac. I'm not sure whether it's going to be showing up much or if it's going to be kind of translucent. Kind of hunting around for where the flame is. Leave a little bit more. Most times when you set the flame really low on a torch, after a few minutes it kind of shifts. The valve seats kind of change up a little bit. And on these GTT torches, you don't want to get it going too small of a flame for too long. But on this particular type of torch, like the Lynx torch, you want to make sure that blue oxygen is always going a little bit. And in this case, it's actually going quite a bit. All right, then we've got some, what do we got? Blue moon. Alright, well, that's all the color, I think, that I'm going to do there. Lose the magnifier. Put my clip-on shades back on my glasses. Okay, boom. Down, I get some heat base built back into the main part of this glass, the meat of it. Okay, as that starts glowing, we can start working on the face here. So the first step is just to get all the bumps melted down flat, more or less. And then we start doing our press. And then we'll start heating up the rim. I got some of that flame going all the way across the face there. Start building up some heat on that outer edge. And this involves a lot of rotation, a lot of moving around different angles, really watching the glass start to move. And a lot of things that start happening. And this kind of operation just takes some feel for what's happening, something you got to try out time after time to where you can just watch that glass from different angles and see what's happening. And how many times you come down to press flat, how much force you put on it, all these things have a factor in how this will turn out. And because you generally aren't going to make that impression dead center, there's going to be a bit of a wobble going on, which you may or may not succeed in straightening out. Eventually, kind of straightens out. And you start to see the little fingers with the little bubbles on the tips coming into that clear glass. So the clear glass is really just folding around where the color was, or is. And that pattern of dots on the outside face will slowly constrict. Meanwhile, the pattern of glass that's inside the clear is basically where it started from. And the clear is just coming around the outside. So we can elevate, giving it a gravity assist. And pull that clear glass around. But before that gets to be too concave in there in the center, you need to throw some heat into that core. Kind of tricky when you go to press that down on the flat. You don't want to smash it. You want to just allow that clear glass to kind of wiggle around a little bit on that outside edge and around to the core. And depending on what colors you use, sometimes they're really stiff at this point. They've been worked a lot. They can get kind of grumpy here going into this stage. So more and more we're just going to focus the heat right into that center. In this phase, it may kind of seem like nothing much is happening, and just trying to get that center to stitch together. Using a little bit of an angle, get some gravity to pull that clear glass. Exercise in patience. It seems to be continuing to slowly come together. I usually get to some point where I get kind of tired of fussing with it. I'll try and grab a hold of that core and pull it out. So kind of superheat this. So kind of tag on there, wait a moment, and then just let this draw out. I'm kind of tugging on it a little bit. It's going to make some kind of funky looking, messy stuff. So go ahead and heat this up. And get that glass to kind of relax on its own terms. And then when we get down to just this very end, we're going to try and rip this little messy piece of glass off of here. Okay, so this is still kind of built on a vortex concept, even though the only way you're going to see down into the depths is around the edges. So let's see, what am I doing next? I've got some dark amethyst that I'm going to use to make some lines on the interior. And the first thing is to gold fume. So let's see if we can make that work. All right, lots of gold. So we're going to do some vertical lines, coming up just a little bit past where the compression feature is. All right. Now we're going to burn off some spilled over fume and melt those lines in. So I'm kind of taking some clues from a picture or two that I had of some other marbles from back in the day, you know, somewhere back in history. I'm trying to generate some effect similar to something I saw. So the next step, I'm going to need some dark frit. So I've got some turbo amethyst. It goes along with the dark amethyst I just put on there. But this kind of serves a different purpose. The stripes were intended to trap that gold. So hopefully that's some color. And this just kind of sets a background. So this frit on there is kind of a light sprinkling. Then by just heating it up, it's kind of balling up, condensing into little spots. Once it's all melted in, then we can shape this a little bit. All right, now, next layer, we want silver. Okay, I'll do the silver out here a little ways. This is kind of a heavy silver layer. And then we've got some jet black. Now this, oddly enough, on the interior should come out as a white background. Should. So wrapping this black on here, we want to seal in the silver. So we're trying to keep the direct flame off of the working piece. So this kind of means the flame has to be just in the right orientation and the right spot. Alright, so I started off with just kind of solid squeezed together lines, and then I did this little breakaway to leave a gap. And I'll come back in and try and push that glass in there. See, at this phase, the torch flame can't really get down to the silver fume layer. It's going to hit that ridges of the black glass in this instance. But kind of no matter how you do this, you're going to introduce some sort of texture or pattern to that fume layer. It's going to be really hard to get a smooth, consistent layer, but either way. So at this point we'll melt this all in. There's still some gaps that may or may not fill out. So we get that mostly smoothed out, melted in, and then we'll just run a little bit more glass over some of these places that didn't fill in. Okay, and that should get our interior pattern pretty much complete. Run some more silver on here for the back side. And onto that we'll run just clear. So we'll throw in our little ad plug for our Epicwater filters. We've got a link in the description below to make some pretty cool water filter systems for your home and for your water bottle on the go. So we encourage people to check out the link in the description and see what they have to offer. And you could help out the channel by buying a filter for your house. So we're trapping that fume onto the black base. So it's funny how that silver fume on the inside should be basically white. The silver fume on the outside being covered up with clear. It may be some kind of color tones. Can't really say what the colors are going to be like, but it won't be white. It will be more of a reflective. Well, the inside should be reflective too. But it's interesting to see the contrast in how the fume is applied and the cover is incorporated. This is another marble. We're out here on the lens side of things. A lot of messy fume spread out there. So going right now around here to kind of burn that out, but it's still going to be, even though it's burned out, it's still into the surface. So that glass, hopefully I can tear out of there at the end. Get that nice and heated in before we move on. We're going to keep filling in. So we can keep going on this stage here, building up quite a bit of clear. This will kind of bulk out the marble. How much glass you add at this stage will kind of determine that interior vortex effect, well, it's one of the factors involved in how deep the well seems. I'm kind of getting a little short on the stick here, but just keep laying down some of this clear until this gets too short. Okay, so that gives us the bulk of the glass. We need to just melt this together. Reach down here to my coffee mug. What we got today? We got hecklefish. Anybody watch the Why Files? Okay. Crank a bunch of heat in here. Get this to come together and ground out. At this very end to close in. That little tip is still sticking out there. Okay. Kind of out of control. I'll let this settle down for a minute. So, time to put on some backside glass. Reset the table here. Okay, I'm going to start off with some butterscotch. Skip out on this spiral to give plenty of room for 2 more color lines. And give some kind of open space for the pattern. And then we've got some silver unobtanium. This is kind of a more subdued color. It doesn't tend to show off so much sparkle as the regular unobtanium that I use so often. So this is the dark, a light component and a dark component. And then the last one is our color element. This is dragon's blood. It should turn out to be a nice gemmy red ruby sort of color on here. And it will be playing off that silver underneath, because this will be a transparent color. Okay, now we need to melt those lines in. This is kind of somewhat similar to purple amber colors with a lot of silver. That dragon's blood, you want to get it to heat up to where it goes clear. Get out of the foggy color. Making progress. Did a little filing on the tungsten pick here. I'm constantly having to grind back or file the tip as it gets worn. Alright. Go back and forth here, get section good and hot. Looks like it's a little hot here on the fingertips. And it's wandered way off center, but that's okay. So after that first row, and I come out to the tip, come back up and drag into some of that other pattern, tie the two layers together. Try and find the center. Wandered around off axis, so it's harder to find that center. I'll come back here over to the lens side and start this. Trying to get it back more or less on center. It's still offset. Every time things get way out of control, it's because everything's really hot. You can kind of take a little moment, cool down, get things under control at least. So try and keep the heat on the chunky side and avoid getting it too hot where it transitions to the rod that I'm hanging on to. But at the moment it's looking pretty clean. I don't see bubbles or tears. Kind of hard to tell if there was a tear actually because the dragon's blood runs clear, so. But I think we're all pretty good. Okay, get that heated in. Looking pretty good. So the next step is we need a punty. So for this first attachment, I just want a full-on seal. Every time you make a punty attachment, I try and focus on the attachment I just made, and then allow the other side to sort of wander around. Okay, we've got to build up a lot of clear here. A lot more than what's already there on the colored side. And in this process, with all this heat, even though there's no real force being applied, that transition zone between the clear and the color is expanding, which is what we want. It's a hot hut. Okay, we got our circumference pretty well pushed out. Yeah, it's crazy how warm it is outside. I'm getting too warm right now, and I've got the fan pulling cold air inside, cold air from outside to the inside of the shop, and it's not cold enough. Okay, once we think we got enough clear built up, we'll come out here to our cutoff wheel and rotate that in there for a minute. That just kind of helps this process. I don't always do this. Sometimes I take a moment to condense that part that's sticking out so much. Okay, this is the phase where I tear off the edge and try and dig into a layer of messed up glass. You can really see it right now, right in here, a bunch of banding of the fumed area. See, sometimes people think this is a lot of wasted glass that I'm pulling off here, but think of it akin to finishing a piece of wood and sanding off the rough spots. Okay, now there's some of this glass that's kind of obviously messed up. You generally don't see all that stuff on the surface until the glass gets pretty hot. It's glowing. So one of these steps is, none of this is absolutely necessary. You could finish out the marble and it will be fine. I'll just try and go through some steps to make it as clean as it can be, because there's still going to be, even if I do all this, there's still going to be some remnants of all that process of condensing the raw. And you'll see some of that in the finished piece. You know what you're looking for? And kind of an interesting feedback from a customer recently where he placed the marble into his fish tank, and the refractive index of water is very different than air, obviously, and the optical effects of the lens with the interior, it really changed how you saw into the interior when it was underwater. So it's something I'm going to have to try out now with my marbles. I might have to take a photograph of what it looks like underwater. The trouble is my aquarium's pretty deep. Not a huge aquarium, but it's pretty deep. So if I drop something down there onto the bottom, it's kind of hard to reach in there and grab it. All right. Let's see. Sometimes you don't see everything until you melt this down. Like I say, when it's really hot, glowing, orange hot, then you can see defects in the surface. So a lot of glass work is just watching the glass, and kind of trying to be one with the glass and understand what it's going through, where the heat is at, how hot is it. So to a degree, a lot of things rely on experience and a lot of hours at the torch, but ultimately relies on how well you pay attention to what's going on in front of your face here. It's not a process you can just go through the motions without really kind of paying attention. Okay, we'll go into the oversized marble mold. You get to one phase where I do kind of give a little push into the mold. You have to kind of do a little horsing around to get this glass to shape up. Okay, got that pretty hot all over. Just cool down for a moment. Punchy up on this front face. I'll just go ahead and flame off this first punchy. I don't try and do any fancy cracking it off of there. Dangerous. Okay, once again, heat and gravity, get it pointed upwards and get it kind of right in the zone that's kind of shallow. It needs to fill out. You only do the fast spin if it's pretty much on center. Okay, well I think it's moving a little bit. Okay. That moved a lot of it around. And give it a little push here to stitch together. Well, this is coming together pretty well. Pretty happy with it. Just shined up pretty smooth just by looking at the reflections. We'll keep working it in the mold with some good spins. Once we get it pretty much the overall shape, and you know, it's pretty round, I'm going to run it in the marble mold here for a moment to let it cool down. At this point, we just want to get that outside surface flame polished. So when you flame polish, you want to get it hot, 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 sit in the fire until it's glowing really well. And then get out of the heat and let it cool down. And that, you can cycle it doing it several times like that. If you still see some little wobbles, you don't have to go to the marble mold. Because usually when you go to a marble mold, you're going to introduce new wrinkles. I mean, you know, you get more experience, that's less of an issue, but certainly anyone starting out, you can do a lot to smooth out your marble just in the fire, with a little patience. But you need to get that core temperature down first. And it's really important to make sure that the base of the glass is not too hot when you go into flame polish. So you don't want to be disturbing the overall shape. And just be hitting that surface. So I've got a couple different lights that I like to watch. Pretty good shape. Pattern looks pretty sweet inside. Now this last puntee is a little bit more, I wouldn't really say it's a cold seal, but it's closer to a cold seal. So I want to shape the puntee to a nice bullet nose, heat up the end till it's glowing, just flash the puntee a little bit, kind of push and tug, push and pull away. Now this front puntee, turn that off. It's going to have left a mess. So we want to not just get rid of the stuff that's sort of sticking out, but kind of dig in here. You want to really be sure you don't have remnants. Okay, now the quitter lens goes pretty quick, relatively. So it's going to have kind of a flat face. You come into the marble mold on the back side where it's solid. And then kind of level. And keep rotating the same direction. Come up vertical. And it's still a little flat on the face. So the goal at this point is to make that front lens a nice smooth curvature. Hopefully no specks of stuff in there. I saw a little bright spot there that I tore out of there, which kind of sets you back as far as making a nice smooth surface, but that's alright. Try this again in just a moment. Now I say this now and again, what I like is about this type of marble mold with a fairly sharp edge is I can look along the boundary there where it meets up, and I can see if there's a gap or what the shape is looking like. I don't know. I think we're shaped up pretty good. So again, we'll just do a little cycling here with heat and then let it settle down. Because every one of the times you cycle that, the high spots sink and give it a chance to sort of reset. And you go through another heat cycle and the high spots starts moving. Okay, the background did as I expected. There's plenty of room to look around the edges to see down into the depths behind there. Okay, at this point we want to really kind of lose some heat. Okay, in here. I'll hover over the marble mold, show that honey connection. Yeah, I took a bite out. That's all right. Just heat that up and let that pull together. I'm kind of heating, I'm coming out and I'm looking at some reflections. Wow. Hopefully this recorded all the way. I just gave up on recording the main feed. what that's all about. We got our marble done. That's the main thing. Hopefully we pulled together a video for it. Into the kiln we go. The audio is all screwed up now because I'm only going to have the audio from Facecam. But anyway, we do what we can around here. It's just me at the torch, running everything and doing the editing. So we wish you all the very best. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy, and we'll see you again on another adventure another week. Take care.